everyone, welcome to the Horror Realm. I'm Travis Bruce, and today we're doing another indie horror spotlight. Today I have with us, he's a returning guest, and he has an amazing movie that I had a chance to see the screener, and it's called WALTZ. I welcome back Joshua Maley. Joshua, welcome back to the Horror Realm.
Thank you. Thanks for having me back on.
You're welcome. So tell everyone a little bit about this amazing movie that I had a chance to see once again, WALTZ.
Well, it's a psychological thriller, kind of a slow burn, character-driven piece. It's not the poster might suggest it's kind of a slasher because we have the Hatter and this freaky costume, and it's not exactly a slasher though. It's definitely more in the vein of like Psycho than say Friday the 13th. But it follows this young lady who is trying desperately to keep from going back to England, where she has kind of an overbearing mother she's trying to stay away from. So she loses her job and ends up getting onto a particular type of social media where she's selling, let's say, intimate photos of herself. And she ends up landing a bit of a stalker on that site, and some unfortunate things ensue for both of them as they kind of both learn a little bit about each other and how far they're willing to go in this situation that her fan has concocted.
And what I enjoy about the story, because it actually brings up something that I was going to say women, but apparently there's men doing it too. A lot of individuals in this country are getting on these types of sites because it's something that's available and it's quick, easy money from what I hear.
Yeah, I had a friend of mine she's an actress first and foremost, and she got on OnlyFans, which is the real life version of what we called Biggest Fan in the film. But I had no idea what that was at first. So when I saw her posting on her Facebook, she's like, "Oh, support me on OnlyFans." I was like, "Well, of course I'm going to support you." I mean, we've worked, together. It's like, all right, I try to, support and get behind all the people that I've worked with before. And so I joined the site, like I just followed her links and things. So I didn't get a sense of what the site was until after I had, joined. And then I saw some of her content and I was like, oh, this is not what I expected. And I told her that too. I said, oh my God, I had no idea what I was getting into there. But that definitely jumped out at me when we were looking at WALTZ. WALTZ originally was a short film I had made like eight or 9 years ago at this point. It was the same basic premise of, a girl, she was on Instagram, I think at that point, and had a stalker who tied her up and tormented her and things like that. And when I decided to revitalize it and make a feature out of it, I kind of thought like, well, Instagram is obviously still around, but this OnlyFans thing, the stuff that, some people are able to sell on there and the little crazy niches that models can find, that felt like it was something that we could maybe explore a little bit. And the internet's been with us now for like 30, 35 years. Wow. So most of us that kind of grew up with it understand that there's always people out there trying to scam you and learn more about you than they need to and stuff like that. But that OnlyFans just kind of takes it to a whole other level. And I realize, not everybody sells those kinds of things on there. I mean, there's some other, I don't want to say legitimate because that suggests that the other stuff is illegitimate, which it's not. But you know what I mean. It's not all like feet pics and nudity. There's some other routes that you can go down with that type of site. I know there's some celebrities on there that just sell, like pictures of themselves, just that you can't get anywhere else and things. So, but it seemed like it was right to explore in a film like this.
Because it's like the thing right now. I was watching on the news, and it was saying that OnlyFans has surpassed Uber and Lyft as the number one side job in this country. Like, it has surpassed as the number one money making side job. And like, wow. And I'm shocked because I meet so many. I've never met a man on OnlyFans, so this isn't this. I'm pretty sure the men on there, but I've met so many women who have OnlyFans, and they're nurses and doctors and lawyers, and I'm like, wow,
Mhm.
this is like and they're not afraid to share that. Hey, I'm on OnlyFans, and like I'm like, okay, this has become like a real mainstream thing.
I wish we had a bigger niche for, you know, chubby bearded guys who make
Me
movies
too.
for a living. I would totally step on that. Maybe a
Me
sequel to
too.
Waltz.
Me too. I wish they had one for like black dudes with ugly feet or something. I mean, I wish that was an option.
There we go.
So,
We should start
so
one. Get your reader, get your
exactly.
fans to support you on that.
I feel like I would probably have more men followers, believe it or not, than women. I don't think women pay for OnlyFans subscription. I don't know, but maybe I feel like it's majority men.
That, you know, that tracks. That was I don't know if you remember this, but like back in the 90s, at least in my area, there was a this like late night dating thing. I think it was on like
Yes.
Friday nights where these people would go out and interview these people at the bars, and they'd be like, if you want to meet this girl, call this number. And it's like, women call free, guys, $7 per minute. And it's
Yes.
like, come on now.
It's always that way. I mean, even like well, I've always said, even with bars and clubs, they have ladies' nights, right? They have nights where women get in for free and drink for free. There's no club and bar in this country that I know of that have fellas' night because it would probably look like a gay bar. You know what I mean? It would be a bunch of dudes just standing around. I mean, if the women had to pay and the guys got in for free and drink for free, you're not going to make any money that way.
That's probably accurate. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, plus guy who put you out of business. If you could tell them that they can drink for free all night, oh my
Oh
goodness,
my gosh.
you would make no money. So is it
Yeah, that's accurate.
is it tough as a horror filmmaker, right, to make this kind of movie? I mean, especially right now where movies like Terrifier and slashers are such, that's what I'm not saying that's what everybody wants to see, but that's what is being pushed when it comes to horror movies. Is it tough to make a psychological horror film, almost like dating back to I call it the original slasher, Psycho?
Yeah. I mean, it wasn't tough for me because I love those kinds of stories. I mean, I grew up on a lot of the slower burn movies. Even the original zombie movie, Night of the Living Dead, that's a pretty slow burn too, in a way. Yeah, no, I really enjoy that. I like the, I guess, traditional approach to storytelling where you have, you introduce your people, you get to know them a little bit, you kind of get a feel for their world and what they're dealing with and what it's like. And then as you're learning that, stuff starts to happen and it builds and it pays off. And we don't get a whole lot of that these days. Everybody wants to jump right in and just start throwing imagery at you and not really laying any kind of like an emotional or an intellectual foundation to it. And so it feels like while you're in the moment, it's like, oh, this is cool. But when you're done, it's like, wait, what did I just watch? Like it's not sticking because there's not a lot of like groundwork being laid. And I'm not saying that slow burns are the only way to do that, of course, but that's just the kind of story that I enjoy telling. And indeed, the project that I'm currently shooting right now, we're doing a zombie movie called Dead Friends Forever. That's my current project.
Nice.
Started off as a short, now it's going to be a feature. And we landed some great people for that. Speaking of Romero, we have Jeannie Jeffries, who was in Dawn of the Dead, kind of reprising her zombie. We recreated her whole zombie look
Nice.
From that movie. And then we have Mike Ankus from Day of the Dead. He's also in it. So that was all kind of cool. But even then, doing a zombie movie, which has tremendously amazing gore. I mean, my More Gore Effects, the folks that I work with, they did all this stuff for WALTZ. And now we've expanded the team. Now we've got like 4 or 5 members now, and they're doing the effects for Dead Friends. And it's amazing, and it's gory, and it's wonderful. But it's still driven by the characters more than anything. We don't open up with a herd of zombies ripping 20 people apart. You know, we meet we meet Serenity, the main character, Ren, who kind of get a feel for what she's going through and the world situation, and it kind of evolves through, you know, modern, you know, what's happening, and then some flashbacks to earlier on. And so that's, I mean, even with a zombie movie where there's plenty of gore and action, I still try to take the time to like lay the foundation so that when we get to the end, you know, there's a bit of a payoff and you're like, oh, that makes sense. Because that just feels good to, you know, when things click and connect and you're like, aha, I got it. I don't think that if we had just kind of thrown Alice into the Hatter's lair, you know, 10 minutes into the movie, that, you know, the moment when the mask of the Hatter comes off and you see who it is, that would not have had the same, you know, as it does when you've gotten to know everybody so far. So,
yeah, and it's not necessarily about the slow burn; it's the character development. And I've been saying this, like, the older I've gotten, like, yes, I love pointless horror movies sometimes where it's just nothing but nudity and gore, but I can't watch that shit all the time because it gets redundant. I like character development, and the reason I like character development is because when bad things happen to the characters, you got to feel something about them. You got to feel something, whether you're just like, yeah, I'm glad this person got killed because I hate them, they're a bad character, or you're like, oh man, I like them. You know, boy, you got to feel something, some kind of emotion, and that's something that I feel like has been missing in a lot of horror recently.
That's true. And I mean, even back in the day, like in the glory days of the 80s slasher movie, you've got movies where a lot of the characters are forgettable. And I'll compare two back-to-back sequels. You got Friday the 13th Part 3, where most of those guys are just kind of stereotypes and forgettable. Then you've got Friday the 13th Part 4, where you've got, you know, an endearing kind of wholesome family unit with Corey Feldman and his Tommy Jarvis and his family, and even the teenagers in that one, Crispin Glover and you know, all of their characters. Like me personally, maybe not for everybody, I liked those guys better. They were better written. They were a little bit more than stereotypes, and so I was more invested in what happened to them when they started finally, you know, dying off. And yeah, I definitely agree. There's a time and a place for the brainless slasher, or the popcorn slasher, not brainless. But it takes a lot of work and cleverness to plan out, you know, a proper slasher flick. But definitely the stuff where you don't have to think too hard about what's going on. Yeah, I love that too. But as far as, in fact, there's a book on screenwriting. I cannot remember for the life of me who wrote it. But I picked it up a couple of years ago just for research, you know, just to kind of, you know, read up and kind of hone my craft. And there was actually a chapter where it's like, yeah, you don't need to make the characters relatable. They're just cannon fodder to show, you know, that there are stakes. And I thought, that's kind of sad. Like when you connect with characters and they start dropping off, and it's like, oh man, that's something that Freddy always did really well too. I think the Freddy movies, all those teenagers were really well developed for the type of movie that they were in. And so when they started dying off, it sucked. You didn't want to see it.
You cheered for the characters, and and I mean, that's what you're supposed to. I mean, there's some horror movies that I like where I'm cheering for the villain, but for the most part, I like to. You can do both. You can cheer for the victims, and you can cheer for the villain. Like, I don't know why, you know, some filmmakers think you can only do one or the other, but you can do both. You can see a point of view, but that's also too going back into backstory. I need a backstory for the villain. Why is he doing this? This is why I'm not a fan of the Terrifier movies, because I don't know why Art the Clown is doing this. I'm just like, okay, so now you have the victims who are not developed at all, and then you have a character, a villain who's not developed. So what do you got? You don't have a story.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I do. I think Chucky, the last couple Chucky movies, and then the TV series, they did a good job of giving you characters that you just hated, and you were kind of cheering for Chucky to get rid of them. Mm-hmm. And then also, obviously, they brought back like Andy and Kyle and stuff, and so you're obviously cheering for them to overcome Chucky ultimately. But it was the one that was set in the psych ward when it was the second one with Fiona Dourif as
yes.
Nico. And that doctor that, gave her that stuff to paralyze her, and he got all creepy on her. And Chucky's like, this guy's diabolical. I don't know whether to kill you or, applaud you. And it's so funny to see that. It's fun. He was one that I was happy to see go. But
Yes.
So yeah, I mean, you're definitely right. You should be able to do both.
Yeah, I mean, you can definitely do both. Now, how long did it take? I mean, you said this was originally a short film. Was it tough to take a short film and expand it into a full length feature?
Yeah, for sure. For this one, it was. We got maybe 10 minutes with the version of Alice in the short where she was at work on Halloween night, and this creepy guy shows up and just kind of like drugs her and takes her away, and you don't really know too much about her at that point in time. So in rewriting it for a feature, coming up with a backstory for Alice, like what's she doing there? Why is she turning to the internet to sell these photos? That was a process that continued even after the role was cast. We had Hannah Keeley is the young lady that played Alice, and she is actually British. She was not putting on an accent. Oh. She's actually from England. And I incorporated that into the story. I took that and said, okay, well, Alice's motivation, it's not just to find work, but it's to keep from going home. So her being from England added a little kind of an organic, twist, I guess, to that and helped it feel a little bit more natural to the story. But yeah, it took some work. There was no Calvin originally. She didn't have a bestie who was pining for her. Nothing like that. It was just Alice and the Hatter and kind of a pain in the butt boss that she had at her workplace, and that was the extent of it. So, but it was fun to expand upon it too, because we got to do a little bit more with the torture scenes, and the Hatter got to speechify a little bit more than they did in the original, and that was fun. That was fun to write those kind of basically monologue. I mean, they're all basically villainous monologues, and it did kind of fit given who the Hatter actually is, and like their age and the generation they come from, getting up on their soapbox and kind of lecturing everybody about their morals and things. It's like that kind of worked out. And we had obviously a really great person in that role too, who did a really great job. So
some amazing actors and actresses, but I do want to give a shout out to the boss in the beginning of the movie. Oh, he played a great job playing a fucking asshole. Everybody has had a boss like this guy. So I just want to say a shout out. I don't know the name of the actor. Great job.
Yeah, that's his name is Mike Reaping. Actually, and very sadly, he's engaged in a battle with throat cancer at the moment. So
wow.
He wasn't able to join us for the premiere. He's been in and out of treatments. I think he might be down to just one more left. Okay. So he's, going through like radiation and chemo and things. I'm not sure the extent of it, but yeah, he's going through a rough patch for sure. But yeah, he was great in that role. I had never worked with him before. He came at the recommendation of, I want to say it was the guy that played Calvin, David Dietz, recommended him for the part, and he was absolutely great. He was one of the last people we cast, and he nailed it for sure.
Now, as a filmmaker, have you ever casted an actor or an actress and you got them on set and you're like, damn, this is not working out?
Yes.
Is that tough to do?
It is. Yeah, it's hard, especially when you shoot a lot of footage, and then you realize that you kind of have to go. I was doing a web series that, regrettably, partly because of this, it never saw the light of day. But I'll avoid naming any names. But yeah. We did have the lead role for that. He ended up making some of the cast members very uncomfortable, and there was some weird like social media drama that was kind of directly or indirectly a result of his presence. and it got to the point where it was definitely not working out. So we had filmed probably enough for the episodes were going to be roughly 8 to 10 minutes long, and I think we had maybe 2 or 3 of those, if not in the can completely, very, very close. And I just got so many complaints about the behavior, even offset, that I was just like, you know what, we got to change this. We got to let you go. We got to recast and kind of regroup. So yeah, it's very unfortunate when that happens. It's unfortunate that adults just can't be adults and do their job and not bring their own psychological hangups to work with them. I mean, this guy was my age. I mean, so he was Gen X. I mean, generally Gen Xers, we keep all that crap kind of tapped down and don't let it out. In fact, we probably don't talk about our feelings as much as we should. But that notwithstanding, it was just way too much drama. So it was unfortunate. And we ended up losing. Eventually, we had to cancel the whole project. So that was unfortunate. But yeah,
that is.
Someday. I'll get back to it someday.
So what's the next step for WALTZ?
Well, right now, I'm talking to some folks. We had 3 screenings so far. We had kind of a big red carpet premiere. We had a fun outdoor screening. There was some screening at Freddy's Haunts where we shot the movie. We did like a little drive-in projector screen in the yard there, right where the final confrontation happens, is where we showed it. So that was fun. That was mostly for the crew of Freddy's that didn't get to see it yet. And then we had a third one in McDonald, PA. It was called McScarefest. And that was hosted by Mike Ankus from Day of the Dead, who, again, I'm working with on our zombie movie. And so right now we're talking to some people. There might be some interested maybe seeing about distribution. If that happens already, that's awesome. We have a couple of places that we're kind of checking into for that. If not, it's going to hit festivals probably in the springtime and run through the summer and probably through the end of next year. And if we can get into some big ones, and hopefully somebody will take notice and say, you know what, this isn't half bad here. Let us put you on Netflix and Shudder and all those other places. And we'll see. Worst case scenario, I'm going to get it out there myself, but we're hoping to find some kind of a good deal that will help us to continue to make these movies too. I mean, I feel very strongly about making good quality horror films that people can, become invested in and get wrapped up in the characters and in the story. And of course, we always got to have funds to make those happen. So if WALTZ goes out there and gets noticed and does well, then we'll be able to make some more.
Well, I am 100% sure it's going to do well because I absolutely enjoy this movie. This is an amazing movie. And listen, if you get a chance to go to a screening or see a festival circuit, well, hopefully we get it on Netflix or somewhere soon. Definitely check it out.
Hopefully.
Definitely check it out. Now, Joshua, where can everyone find you?
Well, we're on Facebook.com/official. Let me look at it again here because I always forget because it's not what you would think it is. It's Official GS Productions. So Facebook.com/Official GS Productions. And that's my production company's website, Grim Sleeper Productions. You'll find links to WALTZ, Dead Friends Forever, the short films that I've done. I've done a couple of shorts as well. All of that is available through our Facebook page. So that's the best place to start.
Listen, everybody, get over there and follow Josh and also check out some of his projects. The guy is an amazing filmmaker. Joshua, listen, it's always a blast having you on, man. Listen, come back on soon.
All right. I appreciate it. I'd love to. We'll talk zombies next time, maybe.
Yes. When the zombie film come out of kid. I fucking love zombies, man. Love fucking zombies, especially if you got a good story behind it. I love zombies. All right, everyone. Well, thank you for coming to the Horror Room. I'm Travis Bruce, and that's Joshua Maley. We'll see you next time. Take care.
See ya.